Defence Forces. I'd like to welcome the Minister with responsibility for defence, Mr Deputy Paul Keogh, and we have contributions from group spokespersons of up to 8 minutes, all other senators up to 5 minutes, and the Minister will be called to reply when no other senators are offering to speak. And I think I have at the moment Senator Layden, Senator Crockwell, Senator Buttimer, Senator Dolan, Senator O'Donnell. Minister, you're to go first, so go ahead. You're very welcome.
Okay, look, I might a little bit over it, but I might ask for leniency. First of all, I very much welcome the opportunity you have given me and your fellow senators given me this evening to speak about our defence forces and the actions that the government are taking to develop the defence forces as outlined in the White Paper on Defence 2015. Defence is a very serious matter, and there is a strong and dangerous of overstating the issues facing the defence forces will ultimately damage the defence forces. In today's information age, an individual with a smartphone can reach a wide audience, and the material that has been disseminated does not undergo quality assurance. And I want to deal with facts, and I look forward to engaging with senators on that basis here this evening. At the outset, I want to again restate my admiration for the men and women of Óglaigh na hÉireann. They provide an important and vital support both at home and overseas. In early March, we all witnessed one aspect of this work when the Defence Forces contributed to our national efforts in responding to Storm Emma. When deployed overseas, the Defence Forces represent the very best of this country. They serve with pride and distinction, continuing to enhance an impressive reputation that has been earned over 60 years of continual contributions to international peacekeeping. Today, Ireland has over 600 members of the Irish Defence Forces serving in 10 different missions, including our ship in the Mediterranean. And I want to thank those individuals and recognise their families, for it is not just those who serve overseas that make sacrifices. Their deployment also impacts on their partners, children, families, friends, parents and all family members and friends. I have always acknowledged the challenges that faced the Defence Forces and have taken a wide range of measures to begin to address these. The steps that have been taken to include initiatives on pay, recruitment, increased opportunities to serve overseas, reviewing contracts and reviewing the conciliation arbitration scheme. The fact is that the Government continues to demonstrate its commitment to ensuring that the Defence Forces are equipped and well trained to the best international standards to meet operational requirements both at home and overseas. The budget allocation for 2018 delivered an additional £25 million. An additional £98 million for capital expenditure has been provided out to 2021. One of my priorities as Minister for Defence is to ensure that our Defence Forces continue to have access to modern equipment and technologies. The acquisition of new equipment and equipment upgrades for the Defence Forces is considered in the context of the White Paper on Defence, as part of the capability deployment and equipment priorities planning processes. Significant investment in equipment is taking place and in the coming years in this context. The ongoing capital investment in the Defence Forces is providing the maintenance and development of key capabilities. I visited the MOAG facility in Switzerland recently, where we have a programme underway for the maintenance and upgrade of our current fleet of APCs, and they are the armoured personnel carriers. I also visited Palata's facility, where we have placed a contract for 3 new PC-12 aircraft. In terms of capabilities, these new aircraft will be specially equipped with ISTAR tasks and will represent a significant enhancement of existing capabilities. Planning has also commenced recently for the replacement of 2 CASA Maritime Patrol aircraft. A 4th new ship for the Naval Service, to be named Ellie George Bernard Shaw, will be delivered later this year, bringing investment in new ships programmes to over €250 million. There is very significant work underway, and the Government remains committed to continuing our significant investment in the Defence Forces to meet existing and emerging challenges in the defence and security environment, both domestically and overseas. I want to address human resources. Human resources are the key component of capability. We face HR challenges similar to other areas of the public service in recruitment and retention of certain personnel. The Defence Forces Climate Survey was commissioned on foot of a recommendation contained in the third and most recent report of the Independent Monitoring Group. The comments arising from the survey cover a wide range of issues relating to human resource management, including, amongst others, pay and conditions, particularly pay for the lowest paid members of the Defence Forces, vacancies, recruitment, retention, promotion systems, performance management, leadership, culture, morale, stress and work-life balance. The opinions expressed highlight a number of challenges for the Defence Forces in human resource management across the areas of leadership, communications, organisational culture and the working environment. Whilst work to progress many of the issues was already underway are planned as part of the implementation of the White Paper on Defence, I have directed that certain projects be brought forward and that work commence on these immediately. I am also acutely aware that many of the challenges and assumptions regarding existing approaches, some of which were previously agreed following a detailed consultation. This is a challenge for both management and staff, and I am very much aware that there are an ongoing work across a range of HR issues. It is worth noting that although pay is just one of the issues raised in the climate survey, it is one which received the most attention. It must also be noted that the climate survey predated PD4's acceptance of the Lansdowne Road Agreement and the pay increases that ensued. Similarly, to other areas within the public service, the pay of the PDF was reduced during the financial crisis. The reduction in pay was on a graduated basis, with increased rates of deductions for those on higher earnings. This action was one of the measures necessary to be taken to stabilise the financial situation which faced the country at the beginning of this decade. Memories cannot be so short that people have forgotten the crisis that we were in at that time. It must also be remembered that a number of cuts to certain allowances were agreed by the representative associations as part of the pay deals. Accordingly, their unwinding is encompassed within this process. The success of government policies is apparent in the improvements in the economy, which has provided the opportunity to begin the unwinding of the public services pay cuts imposed under the Financial Emergency Measures in the Public Interest Acts, otherwise known as FEMPI legislation. The Defence Forces pay is increasing in line with recent public sector pay agreements. The focus of these increases is weighed in favour of those on lower pay. Members of the Defence Forces received increases in pay in 2017 under the Lansdowne Road Agreement. In addition, in a deal agreed with PD4, improved pay scales for general service recruits and privates who joined the Permanent Defence Forces post the 1st of January 2013 were backdated to the 1st of July 2016 and paid in August of 2017. The Public Service Stability Agreement 2018-2020 provides for further increases in pay ranging from 6.2% to 7.4% over the lifetime of the agreement, with the forces under the agreement once again being on the lower paid. By the end of the agreement, the pay scales to all public servants, including members of the PDF, earning up to $70,000 will be restored pre-FEMPI levels. The restoration of the cuts to allowances will also be considered in the context of the agreement. An increase of 1% on annualised salaries due from the 1st of January 2018 has been paid to members of the Permanent Defence Forces. However, there is a persistent narrative that suggests that the Defence Forces are the lowest paid in the public sector. In an organisation like the Defence Forces, where the organisational design is that just over 48% of the establishment strength is comprised of privates, there is a requirement to ensure that any statistics cited, such as average pay, are contextualised. And I would suggest that it is more appropriate to consider the pay on offer for each job, having regard to what is on offer elsewhere for positions requiring similar skills and qualifications. The Defence Forces offer competitive starting salaries and excellent career opportunities for any young person thinking about joining, following the series of pay increases in the last 12 months. A young three-star private on completion of training starts at €27,527, inclusive of military service allowance. This represents an increase of €5,700 or 25% on the starting pay scale in the last 12 months. This starting pay compares very favourably with other entry-level pay rates across the public service. A newly commissioned officer starts on a salary inclusive of military service allowance in excess of €35,000 per annum, following 15 months' training. If officers are already graduates, they start on a salary in excess of €40,000 per annum, inclusive of military service allowance. These rates of pay compare favourably with the average graduate salary across all sectors. In general service promotion ranks for the Defence Forces personnel paying Class A PRSI, the starting pay for a corporal, including military service allowance, is almost €39,000 per annum. The first point on the pay scale for a sergeant, including military service allowance, is just under €42,000 per annum. For officers who are promoted and paid Class A PRSI, including military service allowance, the first point on the pay scales are a captain of €51,033, commandant €63,644, lieutenant colonel €76,000.60, and a colonel €86,579. It should be noted these figures are basic pay, including military service allowance. Members of the Defence Forces also benefit from additional pay rates and allowances. These include tech pay, which range from €420 to €7,000 extra each year, depending on the job of the individual member. In March of this year, 3,680 members of the Defence Forces were in receipt of technical pay, about 40% of serving personnel. Members of the Defence Forces also receive a range of duty allowances depending on their assigned taskings. In the last 2 years, we have increased the opportunity for serving personnel to serve overseas. The average overseas payment received by general service personnel was just over €8,000, and the average pay to officers was almost €10,300. These are significant and deserved tax-free payments that are made to our personnel who serve Ireland with pride and distinction. Given the unique and demanding nature of military life, there is understandably a relatively high level of turnover among the Defence Forces. This is not new to the Permanent Defence Force and has always had a level of turnover that far exceeds other areas of the public service. I am advised that 2,832 personnel left the Permanent Defence Forces in the last 5 years, from 2013 to 2017 inclusive. This figure looks stark and paints a bleak picture if it is taken out of context and considered in isolation from the long-term trends. The selective use of short-term statistics can lead to confusion and misunderstanding. What this extract of short-term information does not show is that members departing the Permanent Defence Forces in recent years are broadly consistent with the long-term trend, with some exceptions. An analysis of data going back a number of years shows very similar numbers. For example, in the 5 years 08 to 2012, some 2,935 personnel left the Permanent Defence Forces. Some 2,889 left in the 5-year period from 2003 to 2007. It should be noted that within these figures, on average, approximately 22% of general service recruits do not complete their induction training. In order to balance personnel turnover, there is a significant ongoing recruitment at both enlisted and officer level. 751 personnel were inducted into the Permanent Defence Forces during 2017. It is anticipated that in the region of 800 personnel will be recruited to the Permanent Defence Force in 2018. This includes general service recruits, apprentice, cadets and direct entry officers. The success of government policies is clearly evident in the economy, which is continuing to grow strongly. This is providing far more job opportunities than we have seen in the recent years. Nonetheless, a career in the Defence Forces is still a very attractive proposition. It is pleasing to note that the number of applications to join the Defence Forces exceeds the number that were applying prior to economic crash, when there were similar employment opportunities. However, I am also aware that the number of finally inducted relative to the number of applicants is lower than in the past, and this must be considered. I have previously outlined particular challenges in certain specialist posts, such as pilots, air traffic controllers, certain technicians. These specialists can prove difficult to retain, whereas in the current economic circumstances there are competing private sector and commercial semi-state sector job opportunities out there. The extensive professional training that such specialists receive within the Defence Forces makes such personnel very attractive within these sectors. This is not a unique challenge to the Defence Forces and is also faced by military forces elsewhere. The issue of specialist vacancies throughout the permanent Defence Forces is being addressed with a range of recruitment methods, including direct entry, competitions for specialist positions. The scope to further expand direct entry is being considered. Civil and military management have been directed to develop proposals to facilitate former permanent Defence Forces personnel with appropriate skill sets to re-enter the Defence Forces. The Public Service Pay Commission was a central component of the confidence and supply agreement between Fine Gael and the Fianna Fáil parties. It set up an agreed process for looking at public sector pay, considering the needs of all sectors. In 2017, under my direction, the Department of Defence raised recruitment and retention issues as part of the submission to the Public Service Pay Commission. In a further acknowledgement of these issues, the Government tasked the Public Service Pay Commission with examining these challenges in the defence sector in more detail. Minister for Finance and Public Expenditure Reform Pascal Donoghue TD has prioritised the health sector and the Defence Forces sector so that issues around recruitment, retention and specialist pay are considered by the Pay Commission. The Pay Commission has commenced this work and has requested detailed information from the Department of Defence. The Department of Defence has been requested to provide hard data and detailed information for the Commission. It is important that the Commission is given the opportunity to do its work, and I have already outlined the pitfalls of the different types of data that are being put out there. For this reason, I do not wish to engage in lengthy debate regarding what the statistics are or aren't showing. That is for the Public Service Pay Commission to consider, and I do not wish to preempt their work. The Department of Defence is continuing to work in close collaboration with military management with the aim of jointly preparing the material requested. The military authorities have produced a paper which is being considered by the Department of Defence, having regard to the hard data and information requested by the Public Service Pay Commission. It is proving more difficult than anticipated to source the information requested, particularly information relating to specialist personnel. However, I believe it is important that the full range of data is submitted. The Department has forwarded an initial tranche of information to the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform and will forward the remaining data and information in the coming weeks when it becomes available. The Public Service Pay Commission is due to complete its exercise in the second half of 2018. The findings and proposals arising will be considered at that time. In conclusion, in addition to the preparation of material for the Public Service Pay Commission, there is an ongoing programme of HR development within the Defence Organisation. A number of initiatives have been instigated, ranging from the review of the CNA scheme, a review of the criteria governing contracts for enlisted personnel, and a comprehensive skills gap analysis across the Defence Forces. These measures address a range of issues and are aimed at ensuring that the Defence Forces retain the capabilities to undertake the roles assigned by Government and remain a career of choice for anyone who wants to work in a challenging and varied environment which provides opportunities for lifelong learning and self-development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Keogh. And now I'll ask our first speaker, Senator Layden. You have 8 minutes.
First of all, I'd like to welcome Minister Keogh to the House and its officials from the Department of Defence. And I just won't be repeating his speech, but it's very